Itakaberatu Guadenyoche. Most welcome. I would like to greet and thank you all for your presence to celebrate with us this year the International Women's Day. Special appreciation goes to the guests that honor us with their presence. So Mrs. Zebide Bogale from the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs and Mr. Shadrach Dusabe, Deputy Representative of UN Women in Ethiopia. So thanks also to the Alliance Ethio-France team to demonstrate once again its commitment for hosting this event. All the participants today play an essential role in defending the cause of women and promoting their rights all year long, and not only on March 8th. Today's event is a perfect occasion to gather and take common steps toward the promotion and achievement. So a bit some news about the program. So this morning a panel discussion will invite us to address the challenges of digital feminist activism and online violence. We should even go beyond and imagine together the steps towards setting up an action plan for digital safety and preventing violence against women and girls under the patronage of the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs. This afternoon will be devoted to a conference called Locating Women Voices and Power in Ethiopia, animated by the French Center for Ethiopian Studies and the fellow researchers from the University of Addis Ababa. So before giving the floor to my colleagues and guests, I would like to say a few words about France's strong commitment at the highest level in favor of equality between women and men. As you may know, gender equality is a key priority for France in our foreign policy, but especially also in our domestic policy. We have adopted a feminist diplomacy a few years ago and designed an international strategy to be reviewed and renewed this year in 2023. In its advocacy, France is acting to ensure that this objective is integrated into all areas of action. We focus on the reduction of inequalities and sustainable development, peace and security, defense and promotion of fundamental rights, climate and economic issues. Here in Ethiopia, we've been supporting many Ethiopian partners to fight violence against women and girls for the past 2 years. We also wish to increase our efforts to promote gender equality, which relates to the participation of women at all stages of economic, social and political life. We will thus deploy a new program this year for €1 million in collaboration with civil society partners and in close collaboration with the Ethiopian institutions. This program is dedicated to promote adequate solutions for the remaining challenges in the fight against sexual violence and to support the implementation of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda at a very relevant time for Ethiopia in order to boost the participation of women in all spheres of peace, security and justice. The issue of the innovation and technological change and education in the digital age is the major theme of the CSW67, the Commission on the Status of Women, which is held in New York this week. Today's morning session is dedicated to the changes induced by technology and digital in our lives in order to promote women and girls, but also to protect them. It is clear that more efforts are required to ensure that our population, especially women and girls, acquire adequate skills to harness digital technology and make the most of the opportunities offered by the digital economy. Access to digital skill is very critical. It needs to start at school for both boys and girls in order to make sure that students will be equipped with the right skills matching the need of the labor market. But access to digital technology also requires to provide correct digital environment to users and especially to women and girls. Due to misuses of digital tools and the lack of proper safeguards, vulnerable persons, including women and girls, continue to experience violence, exploitation and abuse online every day and in every country. Their protection online remains a challenge. Fighting online all forms of violence and cyber harassment is therefore a key issue that needs correct answers. We need to create a safe environment if we want women and girls to be willing to work in these spaces. On this issue, France adopted, along with other countries, a joint declaration on the rights of the child in the digital environment. We are also deeply committed in fighting digital violence directed at women and girls as a clear part of the fight against discrimination. I know I've already been a bit long, but let me please wish you a good working session this morning and afternoon, and fruitful and committed International Women's Rights Day with the support of all of us. Thank you very much.
For the warm welcome to all of us. And allow me to start by wishing you a happy International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Month. Okay, all right. So it is a great honor to be here today as we commemorate the International Women's Day under the global theme, Digital All, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality, which is also the priority theme for this year's CSW 67, Commission on the Status of Women, which is underway in New York. I'm glad that this year's commemoration draws our attention to the information communication technology that have profound impact on our lives. We are celebrating the International Women's Day with better prospects for women and girls in Ethiopia. As you all know, this is a great momentum because the past few years have been very challenging. We recognize that women and girls and all of us are not yet fully out of the odds, but the fact that we are gathering here today is a meaningful significance of the situation improving. The past few years have been challenging with the conflicts, natural disasters, COVID-19 pandemic, which have affected many people, but women and girls have been bearing the brunt of the impact. But the recently signed peace agreements to resolve the conflict in the northern part of Ethiopia has given us a glimpse of hope. Many women and girls who have been abused throughout the conflict may see that as a new dawn opening towards their safety. ICT plays a critical role to accelerate progress towards every single goal of Sustainable Development Goals. They contribute to reduce poverty, they contribute to reduce hunger, boosting health status, they contribute to creating new jobs. Innovation technology help mitigate climate change, improving access to energy and energy efficiency. Information and communication technology can make our cities livable and sustainable. Therefore, innovation technology is with no doubt a strong enabler to sustainable development as a whole. For that fact, it is very important and an absolute necessity that innovation and technology as an enabler to sustainable development be accessible to all without any sort of discrimination. Sadly, this discrimination exists. Sadly, gender-digital divide is only deepening. Innovation and technological changes have the potential to positively impact economic, social, and political outcomes for women and girls. Innovations with potential to minimize the burden of unpaid care work and domestic responsibilities that women and girls have been bearing the most and disproportionately, have been developed for bettering the lives of rural women. In agriculture, digital advancements have allowed improved access to land, productive resources, as well as crucial extension services. In health, digital technologies have made it easier for women and girls to access information and services. For women entrepreneurs, e-commerce has boosted their access to markets and financial inclusion. During difficult times like COVID pandemic, digital solutions technology have helped millions of children to continue their education cycle online. Although we recognize that still, because of the gender-digital divide, hundreds of thousands, even millions of women and girls could not afford, or at least could not even be given that priority and equal priority as their brothers. So many evidences exist globally, but I would be pleased, I would be happier if I was presenting and sharing with you as many evidence of how technology has been an enabler in the lives of women and girls in Ethiopia. I do recognize that evidence might exist, but they are still limited. It is our role to ensure that in a few years to come, we will not be giving the evidence from elsewhere, but from Ethiopia. As we look at the digital technologies through a gender lens, we understand that digital era is giving women and girls new and unprecedented opportunities to improve their lives. Digital technology rapidly change all the spheres of our lives, including our political, socio-economic systems. They are also giving traditionally marginalized groups new access points and opportunities in different areas of life. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while recognizing the considerable benefits of digital technologies and connectivity for everyone, we need at the same time to recognize and urgently address the digital divides that reflect and amplify existing social, cultural, and economic inequalities. Many women, especially in developing countries, continue to face challenges in accessing and making use of digital technologies. According to the International Telecommunications Union, ITU, report recently released, in 2022, an estimated 407 million people in least developed countries, LDCs, were using the internet, accounting for only 36% of the population, compared to 66% globally. 720 million people are still offline in least developing countries, which accounts for 27% of the global offline population, even though the LDC's population accounts for only 14% of the world's population. When measured in terms of internet use, the digital gender gap in least developed countries remains significant, with no sign of narrowing. In 2022, only 30% of female population in LDCs were online compared to 43% male. You can do a quick math to see the extent of gender gap. We have also seen that digital technologies and platforms are creating unprecedented threats to women's well-being, as online spaces provides new unfortunate avenues for violence against women, offering perpetrators increased anonymity and impunity. Young women and girls are disproportionately exposed to online and ICT-facilitated violence and harassment. Online sexual harassment, stalking, Zoom bombing, intimate image abuse, trolling, misogynistic or gendered hate speech, just to name a few, negatively impact their physical, mental, and emotional well-being and affects their education cycle and development as a whole. In 2020, UN Women's study of women in 5 countries across sub-Saharan Africa found that 28% of women interviewed had experienced online gender-based violence in their lifetime. 36% had experienced sexual harassment, while 26.7% had experienced online stalking, such as repeated contact or doxing. We need safe, affordable, and inclusive digital spaces that do not fuel harmful gender stereotypes, that do not suppress women's voices, that do not jeopardize women's safety and rights. Ensuring access to digital technologies for women, as well as skills thereof, are not enough. But we must build a more secure and fair digital future for all. We must ensure that digital tools are helping to increase women's leadership and participation in the digital spaces. As we commemorate this year's International Women's Day in the country, Ethiopia, we are all advocating for this trend to change. We are using all the instruments and partnerships possible to ensure that we all contribute. The United Nations in Ethiopia is advocating for ensuring the digital rights of women and girls under the theme, My Space, My Rights, My Voice. To that end, the United Nations in Ethiopia have partnered with the Great Ethiopian Run to promote women's rights and voice in the digital space during the 5,000 Women's Run first run to be held in Addis Ababa on the 26th of March. You are all invited to join. We are advocating for ensuring digital power is also in the hands of women and girls so that they are connected, empowered, and safe. These contribute to justice, more inclusive and prosperous world. On behalf of the UN country team in Ethiopia, I wish to reaffirm the UN's commitments to continue ensuring that the digital technologies are being used to accelerate progress on sustainable development goals for all, particularly for women and girls. I want to close these remarks by sincerely thanking the French Embassy, Alliance Ethio-France, and other stakeholders, partners, all of you that have all come here today as we celebrate the International Women's Day 2023. I wish you a great day. I wish you very great discussion. Je vous remercie. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like to begin by wishing all of you happy International Women's Day. I am honored and blessed to celebrate this day with you, as well as we appreciate the significant achievement and contribution of women and girls. For more than a century, people around the world have been marked as especially Day of Women. The idea for International Women's Day was proposed by the German activist Clara Zetkin at the 1910 International Conference of Working Women and began celebrated in 1911. The United Nations made International Women's Days one of the official holidays in 1975. International Women's Days celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political accomplishment of women. It is also a day to call for action for spending up the effort being made towards gender equality and women's empowerment and create awareness for the public on the importance of women's rights. The year International Women's Day is begun celebrate globally under the theme Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. At the international level, we are continuing successful campaign of I Care for My Sister that began during the 60 days activism on violence against women and girls in 2021. We began the celebration in Gambella through showcase cultural and traditional foods and artifacts, and the closing event will be held in Afar, focused on women's role in peace building and conflict resolution. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's international theme on innovation and technology for advancing gender equality and women's empowerment in the timely one. We are living in a world that is increasing, being transformed into the digital space. Digital technologies have potential to contribute to gender equality and women's empowerment in several ways. Innovation and technology advanced in digitalization provides access to information, education, and skill, and open possibility for increasing employment and business opportunities for women and girls. Digital access also help raise women and girls awareness of their rights, increasing their civic engagement and expectation of idea and opinion. There are, however, significant challenges that prevent women and girls from fully benefiting from innovation and technology. The first major challenge is the digital divide in access, affordability, and digital literacy and skill. The second main challenge is related to digital safety. Women and girls face online harassment, violence, and envies of privacy affecting their physical and psychological well-being and restricting them from fully enjoying those technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of Ethiopia has put in place political strategy and development plans to ensure the innovation and technology contribution to advance gender equality and women empowerment. Ethiopia 10-year development plan recognize building technological capacity and digital economy and gender and social inclusive as critical pillars. This sense, the innovation and technology policy and the digital 2025 strategy emphasize ensuring and inclusive digital transformation and economy. The Ministry of Women and Social Affairs is in the process of revising its national policy on Ethiopian women after 13 years and developing a national policy on gender equality and women empowerment, ensuring gender equality in innovation and technology is one of the policy objectives of the revised policy. The revised policy addresses online violence, which is also regulated by the hate speech and disinformation prevention, the media proclamation, and the computer crime proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, in all this effort, the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs requires the supporting and collaboration of all stakeholders, including UN agency, development partners, and civil society organization. We hope that we will be able to work together for bright future for women and girls in Ethiopia. Let me close my remark by thanking for the organizers, the UN in Ethiopia, the French Embassy, and French Center of Ethiopian Students for putting together the event to celebrate International Women Days, and I hope it will be a successful engagement. Thank you.
So my name is Rémi Maréchaux. I am the French ambassador in Ethiopia. So March 8th is an international and worldwide celebration, a day dedicated to the fight for the improvement of women's rights. So here today, the focus today in Ethiopia will be mainly on the digital space, because we all know that we all know the importance of the digital economy and the importance taken by the digital space, and it is important to take into account the need for training to allow all youth, especially women and girls, to be able to benefit from new opportunities, but also to be protected, because the internet is a space sometimes of harassment against women, and it's important that each country decides what framework to adapt in order to allow everybody to have an equal benefit of the internet.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm Shadrach Dusari. I'm the country representative at interim for UN Women in Ethiopia. So UN Women is the United Nations entity for gender equality and women's empowerment. So UN Women being the United Nations entity for gender equality and women's empowerment, today is one of our most momentous days in a year when we celebrate the International Women's Day. So it's an annual event. It happens, and every year there is a theme for the International Women's Day. And this theme is selected purposefully by the United Nations in light of the deepening gender inequalities that exist in different spheres of life. So this year's 2023 International Women's Day, our theme is Digital All, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. So today we are here at the Alliance Ethio-France because we've co-organized the UN system in Ethiopia together with the development partners and the Embassy of France. We've selected this place
to spend the whole day discussing, brainstorming around, gender equality and women's empowerment, particularly in light of this year's theme, Digital All, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment.
So it's as I said, it's a worldwide celebration. So we also celebrate it in France, and my country has adopted for many years a feminist policy, because the status of women in France still needs to be improved. Mm-hmm. There's still too many violences against women. There's still too many discrepancies in terms of salaries. So we haven't reached the equality between men and women. So we have a domestic agenda in improving the situation of women. But outside of France, we try to partner with interlocutors and ready to work and in their country to improve the situation of women. So for instance, here in Ethiopia for the past 2 years, we've been working in support of 18 civil society organizations in 9 different regions, working to fight gender-based violence. So we do not tell our partners what to do, they know exactly what to do. We don't lecture, we don't come with solution, because we don't have the solution, only Ethiopians have the solution to Ethiopian problems. So we support Ethiopian partners. So this is what we've been doing for the past 2 years. And now in the context of the peace agreement, of the transitional justice to come, we have a new project to strengthen the capacity of women to take part in the dialogue, but also to improve the treatment of gender-based violence by the Ethiopian judiciary.
One thing that I also would like to say is that the fact that this year's theme is around digitalization, bridging gender digital divide for more gender equality and empowerment of women, it doesn't mean that women and girls have been faring well in that area. Actually, technology, innovation technology is one of the areas where the gender gap is big, is wider. So selecting this theme is really about to attract the attention of the world, of the multilateral, the bilateral organizations, so that we all align behind that cause to ensure that gender digital divide is bridged, or at least reduced. So on your question around, how do we equate it with, the feminism? Just to say that feminism, I would say it's an ideology, but it is not different from gender equality ideology. I would say, there is no difference. Because feminists are all those men and women who understand and fight for the cause of equality between men and women, equal opportunities. If you are, whether you are a man, whether you are a woman, whether you are a girl or a boy, if you have that conscience, that spirit, that there has to be equality in all spheres of life between women and men, girls and boys, you are a feminist. So, but unfortunately, there is a tendency of, even portraying feminism as something else, even to some extent in certain spheres as, a negative. It's not. It's the fact of having that, being conscious of the need for women's rights, the need for gender equality. If you are animated with that awareness, and that you can put all your energy to promote gender equality to prevail, you are a feminist. Whether you are a man, whether you are a woman, you are a feminist.
So it's a day, once again, when we speak about the celebration of the International Women's Rights Day, some people notice that what about the 364 days? It's an everyday endeavor, but this day, March 8th, is a day of special advocacy, to raise awareness, to remobilize key actors, and maybe to do what we will do today, which means discussing about the best way to improve the situation, specifically on the internet, how to protect women on the internet against harassment, how to allow women to benefit from the internet. Just for instance, in Afar and Somali region, there were several organizations advocating against genital mutilation. So it's very different. We didn't come with a plan and try to explain Ethiopian what they should do. We just made a request for proposal, and then we received many requests from Ethiopian very active civil society organization, just explaining their goal, what they do, and explaining what kind of support they need. Once again, I wouldn't pretend that France can be presented as a model. We still have many things to improve in France. But what we try to do outside of France is in anything we do. For instance, if we have a development project regarding environment and climate, regarding the creation of jobs and new activity, we integrate in each and every of action this priority of improving women's situation and women's rights.
The online violence, unfortunately, is increasingly manifesting itself in different forms. Let's start with women's rights defenders. Women's rights defenders, increasingly, they are becoming victims of online bullying. Whenever they post any message, to do with gender equality, promotion of women's rights, you see the reaction that comes from here and there, bullying them. We've seen, as part of gender equality, we strongly believe with evidence that if women are represented, equally represented as men in leadership positions, then there is high likelihood that the decision makers will make policies, laws that are gender responsive, that are gender sensitive, that are gender progressive. However, unfortunately, look at during the electoral campaigns. During the electoral campaigns, where all the candidates, men and women, if we are lucky to have women candidates, when they are presenting their manifesto, their political manifesto, technology is one of the drivers that reaches different spectrum angles of the world. So it is a tool for campaigning, political campaigning. But look at the violence that is really directed against women candidates online. You will see that people, they tend to undermine the leadership and capacity of women candidates to certain leadership positions. And this is mostly done online. Bullying and all that. And in the end, some of them get disappointed. They are completely discouraged and they abandon. This is what we call violence against women during the electoral processes. Well, digital safety does not mean that they need to be aware of technology. No. They need to continue rising when it comes to the use of technology. However, in all required total safety, against all forms of cyber or online violence. So as we talk of cybersecurity, against all kind of threat, online threats, system-wise, instruments, including legal instruments, need to be in place. That would prevent and eventually punish all the perpetrators of online-based gender-based violence. So it has to start by, the legal framework. Because all these platforms, when we talk about the internet use, the technology, the International Telecommunication Union, they have policies. So it means that in these policies and the legal framework regulating, governing the use of technology, there has to be provisions and well enforced, punishing all kinds of online violence against women and girls. That would really be the starting point. Because if 1, 2, 3 cases of punishments happen, of course this will dissuade others not to commit that offense anymore.
I don't see it as a movement antagonizing others. If some movement of that kind exists, it's a tiny minority. So I don't see it as a threat to anybody else. I mean, there's something which is obvious, which is that the status of women cannot be considered today as equal to the status of men, and so they need to be improved, and that's in the benefit of the whole society. So it's not a zero-sum game. It's not because you improve the right of women that you will degrade the right of men. It doesn't work that way. It's a collective benefit of the whole society. You cannot consider any job, any position, any responsibility that would be reserved to men or women. I mean, it's no longer the case. I think in many situations, especially in crisis situations, women have demonstrated that they can hold any responsibility that men can also hold. So I hope it's part of a global trend. Because we also make a lot of efforts in France to have parity in government, and even in my job as an ambassador, we have a goal set by law to have at least 40% women ambassador. So it's just a tiny field of activity, but it's a general trend. So it's not only Ethiopia, France. You can name many countries around the world, in Africa, South Africa, Rwanda, many others. So I hope it's a global trend.
Well, I would say that as it is for the rest of the world, gender equality is a journey. And Ethiopia, as a country, is one of those countries that are on this journey. There are some progress that have been made, but that journey is still long. However, as UN Women, we are strongly partnering with the government. We support the government together with the entire UN system, other UN agencies, in terms of ensuring that the development aspiration of the country get realized and benefit all the population, including women and girls. For gender equality in particular, the first starting point is the policy framework. Ethiopia has been implementing a gender policy, women's policy, which is 3 decades old, 30 years old. But since 2 years ago, the government has undertaken a process of revising the policy to adopt a new gender policy, which I believe looking at the prospects and the process as it has been to date, this policy is expected to be well adapted to the current realities, current developments, because you would believe a gender policy which is 30 years old may no longer at all be up to the current reality, even in terms of development. So that is really the first and most important progress, for Ethiopia. But when it comes to the safety of women, prevention and responding to gender-based violence, even in terms of laws, as UN Women and other UN agencies, we've been working with the Minister of Justice in Ethiopia to ensure that first, with the Minister of Justice and the House of People's Representative, the government has undertaken and completed a review of laws, just to ensure that the provisions in the current laws in Ethiopia that would be perpetuating gender inequalities are repealed. So that study has been completed, and after the study, now where we are with the relevant institutions, starting with the Minister of Justice, is to do some to encourage on the laws reforms to ensure that the laws, legal framework in application in Ethiopia is not perpetuating gender inequalities in any form. Mm-hmm. So that is at policy and legal level. So I would say that the country is on the right path when it comes to the journey for gender equality, even though we all recognize that the journey is still long.
If there is inequality to correct, if at one point the men's status will need to be protected, maybe, not in the short term. I wish to thank Now TV for covering this important event.